Last month, the University of San Francisco made an alarming discovery that 93% of Americans tested had traces of a chemical called glyphosate in their urine. Last year, the World Health Organization deemed glyphosate a possible carcinogen. So why is glyphosate everywhere, including inside of us? Because it's the main ingredient in biotech giant Monsanto's flagship product, Roundup, a pesticide sprayed all over almost every acre of food grown. With new revelations of a seemingly urgent health crisis of a cancerous chemical infecting nearly everyone, one would think the company responsible, along with the US government, would take measures to protect people, but in fact, they've done the opposite. Monsanto has already proven it cannot be trusted to care about anything but money, especially when lives are at stake. Over the next 20 years, Monsanto, with the government's help, flooded the planet with seeds and ate up its competition, acquiring dozens of companies along the way. Monsanto now produces 80% of the corn and 93% of the soy, two ingredients that make up the base of almost all processed foods in the US. By 1995, the EPA had ranked Monsanto 5th among US corporations on its list of top dumpers of poison, having discharged over 37 million pounds of toxins into the air, water, and land. But Obama has been one of the most pro-Monsanto presidents thus far. Heavily sponsored by the ag industry, he's given the company billions to secure a foothold in Africa and appointed several Monsanto executives to top government positions. With decades of creating a well-oiled machine of propaganda, protection, and privilege, their latest tricks to protect their profits threatens more people than ever before. Many studies have already made the connection between glyphosate exposure and a number of serious human health effects, including cancer. Not only has Roundup's super technological, expensive method not proven higher crop yields, the entire ecological balance of the earth is threatened by Roundup's toxins. Currently in negotiations with Bayer, the two are the top suppliers of agrochemicals, seeds, and GMO crops. A marriage between them would take that dominance to a new level.
You're responsible parents, right? At home, you keep hazardous products out of the reach of the kids. But there is a chemical threat that you can't fight against. Pollutants that you can't see and that you can't smell, but to which our children are very exposed. Dangerous particles that are hidden in our food and in the water that we drink. They are the most vulnerable when it comes to chemical products. Cancers, birth abnormalities, hormonal problems, mental impairments, and even autism. To measure the exposure of the children from these schools, we suggest a little experiment to their parents. We take a lock of hair from the children. On average, these children have 44 pesticides in their hair, of which 24 are categorized in these red columns. pesticides that are banned, but which are still present in the environment, or authorized pesticides that are classed as dangerous, carcinogenic compounds, toxic to reproduction, neurotoxic, mutagenic, hormone disruptive.
C'est un cocktail, ouais, ça c'est sûr.
Est-ce qu'il y a plus de risques pour ces enfants-là?
On sait que l'exposition à un cocktail de différents polluants, pesticides ou autres, peut avoir des effets à court terme ou à long terme, des fois transgénérationnels, sur les individus qui ont consommé.
In the United States, they are seeing an explosive growth in autism. The highly official CDC, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, is blunt. 1 in every 68 children is affected by an autism spectrum disorder.
La pandémie est mondiale. Cette année, le nombre de cas d'autistes diagnostiqués chez les enfants sera supérieur au diagnostic de diabète, de cancer et de sida additionnés. Voilà, c'est ça la réalité. C'est hallucinant.
The increase in autism amongst children could also be linked to our chemical environment, and one insecticide in particular.
Right now, we have a total of 12 chemicals on the list where we are convinced that those chemicals actually harm children in regard to their brain development. We have also added some pesticides like chlorpyrifos.
Chlorpyrifos is an insecticide that is widely used, particularly in the United States. The red areas are those where pesticide usage is the most highly concentrated. The results are conclusive. 31.94 picograms of chlorpyrifos, well above the detection limits. We fly over Kauai, the oldest island of the Hawaii archipelago. The island has one distinctive feature. The world's biggest agrochemical companies have all taken up residence here. Because the climate is ideal, up to 4 harvests per year. Dow, DuPont, Syngenta, BASF, they are all here. Monsanto is just opposite, on the neighboring island. It's the largest open-air laboratory for GMOs in the world. These companies use huge quantities of pesticides. The sprayers are everywhere. Doctors on the island have rung the alarm bells. 50 of them have signed an appeal on the worrying number of birth deformities.
Our population here probably have much higher incidence, about 10 times of the national rate.
Are you worried about this chemical exposure?
I do. I think we should have somebody to really look into all these numbers, and so we can find something unusual happen.
In Hawaii, in the great democracy game, the chemical industry is the winner.
We go through this belief of having the right to express ourselves and vote, and we have done that, and we were victorious, and then they hold everything up. It's saying we don't count. What it's saying is that corporations, have more importance in their world than we, the people, and the children.
The winners and the losers are always the same.
¿Por qué estoy aquí en el escenario y no estoy preparándome para las finales de salto con pértiga? Porque el presidente y los miembros de la Asociación Internacional de Federaciones de Atletismo le impusieron a los deportistas rusos criterios imposibles de cumplir, y el principal criterio era vivir y entrenarse fuera de la Federación de Rusia. Eso no es posible. Ni una persona en este planeta puede prohibir a otra persona vivir, entrenarse y trabajar en su país.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has condemned what he describes as a clear double standard used by the International Olympic Committee after it upheld a ban on Russia's entire track and field team from participating in the Rio Games. Putin stated that the IOC ruling violates the spirit of the Olympic Charter.
We
cannot agree with the blanket disqualification of our track and field athletes, whom I want to stress an absolutely clean doping record. We will not and cannot accept this kind of open discrimination. This goes completely against the Olympic movement's principles. But we will fight for justice exclusively through legal means, and will act in strict accordance with the Olympic Charter. I'm sure the Russian Olympic Committee will continue to defend our athletes' interests.
Russia's president made it clear that he considers the ban a politically motivated decision that violates basic legal norms and international law.
This campaign that targets our country's athletes includes the use of notorious double standards and the principle of collective responsibility, or as was said, reversal of the presumption of innocence, which is not compatible with sport and not compatible with justice and basic legal norms in general.
The never-ending twists and turns with the Russian doping scandal story. The whole country, the whole team, they've already come to terms in their minds. They've put up with the fact that the entire Russian track and field team will not get a chance to compete at the Rio Olympics, with just one exception, Russia's long jump competitor, Daria Klishina. She lives and trains in the US. She's been undergoing doping testing thousands of kilometers away from Russia. So any kind of accusations against Russian doping test labs, in her case, they are completely irrelevant. The International Association of Athletics Federations first said that she will be able to compete in Rio 2016, and now they are revoking this decision, which of course came as a surprise for Russia. It came as a huge shock for Daria herself, who's already in Rio.
I'm a clean athlete and have proved that already many times and beyond any doubt. Based in the US for 3 years now, I have been almost exclusively tested outside of the anti-doping system in question. I'm fallen victim to those who created a system of manipulating our beautiful sport.
Russia's Olympic chief, Alexander Zhukov, too, has been quite critical of the IAAF.
It's astonishing that the IAAF has waited until the last moment to arrive at the decision to ban Daria Klishina. They had all the information, like all the other federations, significantly earlier. Why is it only now that she's found out she can't participate in the Games, when she's already received her accreditation and passed for the Olympic Village? This is a very bizarre decision in my view.
clima de insatisfacción. A nadie le gusta este gobierno. Su índice de aprobación es de 14%, pero por otro lado no hay una movilización organizada del pueblo. Entonces nosotros tenemos de manifestaciones individuales o de grupos de activistas que están organizados para hacer oposición, pero no hay una gran movilización popular. A la mayoría de la población le gustan los juegos, pero en relación al gobierno actual, sí, el país está dividido y muchos tienen conciencia de que estos juegos fueron posibles por causa del gobierno Dilma y no por causa de Temer, que está ahora ocupando la presidencia. Hubo una articulación de ciertos grupos que son muy poderosos en la sociedad brasileña, grupos económicos, grupos financieros, que están trabajando para excluir Dilma Rousseff de la presidencia y poner en el poder un grupo político que es tan o muy más corrupto do que el grupo que estaba en el gobierno anterior, pero que va a servir a los intereses de ciertos grupos económicos, financieros y también a los intereses de Estados Unidos.
O país está sendo afetado por um golpe, o país está sendo tomado por um golpe, o país está sendo dilacerado por um golpe que ainda não se completou. E não se completou, mas que nós temos obrigação de tentar parar. Porque se eles tiverem oportunidade, os estragos serão muito grandes. É de fato uma eleição, é mais do que um golpe. É um golpe seguido de eleição indireta. É disso que se trata hoje. Por que é seguido de eleição indireta? Eles mesmos reconhecem, vários deles reconhecem. Não há crime, há um julgamento político. Só que julgamento político cabe no parlamentarismo.
This carrying the signature of CIA Gulen in partnership with NATO as part of Operation Gladio. Interestingly, at least 3 out of the 5 couist regiments are and they are still part of NATO's rapid deployable corps. Looking at for the last 13 years, these guys, these coup implementers, these 3 regiments were all working for the NATO. And I have to emphasize the fact that this is the segment of the NATO when it comes to Operation Gladio B implementations, not only in Turkey, but also in Central Asia and Caucasus. Now, can you get more explosive than this? and this needs to be publicized. We are not going to see any of this in the mainstream media in the United States or in England or in Germany. I have also gone on record talking about Fethullah Gülen's network, CIA network, penetrating, infiltrating, getting into the Turkish military and also Turkish police force. About 15-20% of military in Turkey has been infiltrated by CIA Gülen network, and the number is like closer to 70% of Turkey's police force has been infiltrated throughout this last 15-20 years by Gülen network. And again, you see it clearly during the coup, as you see with these documented information facts, Turkish police forces, the ones part of Gülen's CIA network, they assured the coup implementers that they were going to support, not oppose them. As you see, the mainstream media in the US is focusing on Erdogan, President Erdogan in Turkey, rounding up these traitors, right? Thousands of them. Well, we just show with these documents, these evidence, these facts, that these people, including those people that he's arresting right now, President Erdogan, they are the ones who have been working for the CIA and Gülen network. So it is within his rights, the country's right, to arrest and prosecute these people. And then when we go back and revisit NBC News during the most critical stage of these coup attempt, putting out this information, this lie that was concocted by their high-level senior Pentagon military sources, saying that Turkish president was on the run, he had escaped the country, he was inside a plane and flying on top of Germany, Frankfurt, and requesting for asylum. So NBC worked together with CIA, Gülen network, and NATO and their pawns, the coup implementers, trying to speed up, facilitate this illegal coup in Turkey, because they use this psychological warfare tactic, saying, your leader is on the run, it's over, people. He's trying to get asylum in Germany, so this is over with. This is what NBC tried to do. Now, this is extremely important. It basically proves what we have been claiming, saying this coup was plotted and originated by CIA Gülen network in partnership with NATO.
most historians agree that we are seeing a lot of parallels right now to the start of World War I and World War II. Russia says the U.S. is making it more difficult for them to avoid the outbreak of large-scale conflicts. Vladimir Putin just signed a document declaring NATO a threat to their national security. He also says we are on the brink of war, and the fact that you are not hearing about any of this on the mainstream news shows just how controlled the media is.
Well, the West doesn't have a media, you know that.
Yeah.
In the United States, there's 6 big companies own 90% of the media. And basically, it's not allowed to function as a media. So you don't get any news. You just get the propaganda from Washington and from the corporations. The media in America, the print and TV media, is a propaganda ministry.
Yeah.
It lies for the government, and this is what Putin was telling them at St. Petersburg. And he was pointing out that this is really very risky because it encourages more reckless actions by Washington and NATO, and that there comes a time when Russia simply can't take the risk of these actions. And so he's telling the media, if you don't do your job, you are leading us into war.
We know year by year what's going to happen, and they know we know. It's only you that they tell these fables, and you buy it and spread it to the citizens of your countries. Your people do not feel a sense of the impending danger. This is what worries me. How do you not understand that the world is being pulled in an irreversible direction? That is the problem. But they pretend like nothing's going on. I don't even know how to get through to you people anymore.
You know, they've got most of the American population believing that Russia is going to invade Poland any minute.
Yeah.
The Baltics any minute. And Putin knows that we're lying. And this is the danger in it all, because when you publicly tell so many lies and you know that the person you're talking about knows you're lying, you put them on guard. So Russia continues to try to rely on diplomacy, but diplomacy is powerless if people don't care about the truth. And that's the case in Washington and with the NATO officials. And if the journalists can't challenge Washington and NATO because they don't have the independence to do that, then diplomacy is at a dead end. And so the minute that Putin and Lavrov finally give up on diplomacy and realize that it's a dead end and nothing can come of it, then there's nothing left but force confronting force. All of my life, presidents worked to reduce the tensions with the Soviet Union. They were trying to reduce the tensions between nuclear powers. We have. Well, since George Herbert Walker Bush, the 3 presidents that have followed have all dramatically increased the tensions with the Russians. And when you have the tensions raised like they are now, and everybody is told that Putin is putting back the empire and he's going to invade and he's doing this and doing that, then that type of false alarm becomes more believable. A lot of Americans understand that they don't have a media and they have to go to alternative sources, which basically means the internet. So it's the only information we have. Unfortunately, you see, the bad guys can use it too.
sad commentary on the state of political life in the United States. That our political conventions have become more like rock music festivals than competitions of ideas. But what is disturbingly absent is any mention of how we got to this crisis and how we can get out. From the current foreign policy mess to the looming economic collapse, all we hear is both party candidates saying that they will fix it, no problem. In her convention speech, Hillary Clinton promised that she would fight terrorism and defeat ISIS by doing more of what we have been doing all along, bombing. In fact, we have dropped more than 50,000 bombs on ISIS in Iraq and Syria over the past 2 years, and all she can say is that we will drop more. How many more bombs will defeat ISIS? How many more years will she keep us in our longest war, Afghanistan? Clinton does not understand that the policy of endless interventionism has brought us to our knees and made us far weaker. Does she really expect us to be the policemen of the world with $20 trillion in debt? Likewise, Republican candidate Donald Trump misses the point. He promises to bring back jobs to America without any understanding of the policies that led to their departure in the first place. Not once did he mention how it happened, the destructive policies of the Federal Reserve. Trump treated this week that home ownership is at its lowest level in 51 years. He promised that if elected, he will bring back the American dream. He seems to have no idea that home ownership is so low because the Fed-created housing bubble exploded in 2007-2008. How are these candidates going to fix the problems we face in America if they have absolutely no idea what caused the problems? No matter who is elected, Americans are going to be very disappointed in the outcome. There is hope, however. It's up to us to focus on the issues, to focus on educating ourselves and others, and to demand that politicians listen.
Hillary Clinton is trying to paint a demonic picture of Donald Trump because on the record she can't get elected because she was engaged in significant criminal activity. The emails we know about, the Clinton Foundation is a fraud. The Clinton Foundation to me is a racketeering enterprise, and the State Department was a pay-for-play organization. The press's coverage of him is so unfair compared to the press's coverage of the pay-for-play Secretary of State who revealed emails that put the national security of this country in jeopardy. That is a massive scandal. What she did with the Clinton Foundation and all the favors the State Department did for hundreds of millions of dollars is, to me, clear violation of the conflict of interest law. I don't want a president who has been grossly negligent with the handling of national security. And by the way, I have put people in jail for handling national security information improperly. People that did far less than she did.
Not content with releasing 20,000 emails from the Democratic National Committee, Assange now says he'll be releasing more material that he says will provide enough evidence to see Hillary Clinton arrested. He's given a series of interviews in which he says that there's no proof whatsoever that the emails that he's already released came from Russian sources. He says when the Clinton campaign talks about having proof that the emails were hacked by Russians, he says, I don't know what they're talking about, but they're not talking about my leak. And what we have now, he says, is the Clinton campaign using information about past hacks to divert attention away from what's actually in those emails. But that this diversionary tactic itself raises questions. Clinton here is presented with a political scandal, and what she does is blame the Russians, blame the Chinese, according to Assange. And if she does that in government, he says, that's a style that could cause serious conflict.
There's absolutely no denying that WikiLeaks has been a world champion of bringing justice to those that are corrupt and abuse their political powers. For example, that person being Hillary Clinton. Now, in a brand new leak, a file from Congress reveals that there are strong ties between Hillary Clinton and high members of the Islamic cleric in Turkey. A month ago, we saw thousands of people in Turkey trying to pull off a coup against Erdogan. WikiLeaks has proof Hillary Clinton was one of the chief architects of that. So in these documents, we find that there is a connection between the Gulenists and Hillary Clinton, and that the Gulen-aligned group called Alliance for Sharing Values hired the Clinton-connected Podesta group to lobby Congress on its behalf. Hillary Clinton represents the corrupt elite. Had WikiLeaks not gained control of these emails, we would not have been able to see this major connection.
In so many words, Hillary Clinton's foreign policy stance is, quote unquote, to blow up the planet. She has made statements to the effect that a first strike nuclear attack against Russia or Iran is on the table, so that if she is in the White House, she could in fact unleash the unspoken, which is World War III. I think this is something we have to address, both in terms of analysis, but in terms of political choice, so that anybody who wants to blow up the planet is not progressive. Secondly, she has a criminal record, not only in regards to the email scandal, but also in relation to the Clinton Foundation, which is involved in fraud, money laundering, political cronyism, etc. It is amply documented.
What on earth could be the reason behind Hillary Clinton's bizarre behaviour in recent weeks? Weird seizures, psychotic facial tics, over-exaggerated reactions, coughing fits, strange lesions on her tongue. Is Hillary on the verge of a mental breakdown due to stress, or are her strange outbursts linked to a medical condition? Is Clinton suffering from actual brain damage, or are these odd manifestations just an expression of some kind of narcissistic personality disorder? We know Hillary fainted and hit her head back in 2012, leading to a blood clot in her brain. In almost half of sufferers, this leads to side effects and neurological issues. Experts told me that this footage likely shows Hillary having a mild Jacksonian type of seizure caused by a side effect of the blood clot. Notice how shocked the reporter is by her behaviour, and how Hillary tries to turn it into a joke, but then continues having the seizure. Notice how it was triggered by several different people talking to her at once, which is a known cause of seizures. Is this why Hillary refuses to give press conferences? We see similar traits in this footage: the crazy eye movements, the overreaction to external stimuli, difficulty swallowing, choking, a garbled voice, again all side effects of strokes. Guess what else is a side effect of strokes? Spontaneous outbursts of laughter that go on for longer than is socially comfortable.
Hearing about your damn emails. But there are a lot of people who are not.
Well,
including
some aspects of Hillary's freakish behavior could be explained by the blood clot, but others could be a manifestation of her notoriously unstable personality and even drug abuse. Her sudden, profound, and disproportionate bouts of rage, confirmed by former Secret Service agents and her own campaign insiders. Her susceptibility to rage whenever she's challenged would also explain the complete dearth of press conferences and why her campaign builds human walls to keep reporters away. Hillary is also likely on the autism spectrum. She has virtually no empathy for other people. Then you have the memory lapses, the pathological lies about being under Bosnian sniper fire, the lies about her email scandal. All signs of cognitive impairment, personality disorder, or both. Hillary could be mentally incapacitated and incapable of handling stress, even before she takes on the most stressful job in the world.
You, as a truly educated expert, 6 months a few years ago disappearing into this brain tumor specialist facility, all the bizarre behavior, her obviously degenerating, acting so angry, looking disoriented, having many seizures, looking at her just in the videos you see online, if you saw that of a layperson, what would you say is wrong with them?
I would say that she has a occult brain tumor, either glioblastoma, or that she has possibly an onset of Alzheimer's because of thrombosis to the brain. She has a well-known history of having concussions, not just one concussion, but concussions in 1998, 2009, and a major concussion in 2012. Which means that she has an ongoing post-concussion syndrome and or a glioblastoma or an onset of dementia or all three. Now we have a case where you have complete sociopathy. You have lies upon lies. There's no question her personality is one of the complete sociopath. It clearly said to me that Hillary at this point is not qualified physically, mentally, or emotionally to be the President of the United States.
Trump out there with so much behavior and so many comments that we can make some judgments about his temperament, about his personality, who he is, and what he's all about. And what I see is a lot of instability. I see a guy who's not consistent. He has discarded many groups of people, minorities, immigrants. He looks really quite unstable in a general election. And his personality and temperament is now an issue. It's not only an issue with Democrats and independents, but Republicans see him as someone who they do not feel has the right stuff to be a president. He doesn't have presidential timber, the character, the temperament, the personality, or the makeup to actually do the job.
have the elections coming up in November. And we know that the powers that be, they want a certain candidate in power. And if it doesn't go their way, well, they might end up doing something. The election system, the electronic ballot casting system, is going to be part of the critical infrastructure. And DHS will now be in control of the election systems. But what's very interesting about all of this, if there is a cyber attack, a blip or something they pick up or create, and I'm going to go with the create part, they can call the entire elections off. Our system was hit. We don't know where it's coming from. We don't know what happened. We are going to postpone the elections. Now, why would they do this? If they do not see the elections going in the way they want, and they don't have the ability to manipulate the way they want it to be manipulated, because remember, if there's too much of a spread, it's going to really look odd, strange, and people are going to catch on saying, well, okay, wait a minute. So when we see the elections happening, and if a certain candidate is taking the lead, all of a sudden you will hear an announcement that the election system has been compromised. So this is something that we need to watch, and we need to be aware of what is going on, because we can see this is part of their plan.
and I think many of us will know this, that the major governments have been sort of asked to declare the truth and have reneged on it. And it's now to the position where they've all been given an ultimatum to bring forth disclosure, and if they don't, then disclosure will be brought forward without their say-so. The difference there is that if the Earth governments controlled disclosure, then they can manage the situation. If it's taken out of their hands, they can't. So that's the first thing. The second thing I want to say is that the false flag is a very real option, because if benevolent off-planet entities are going to disclose, then what the elite on the planet will try and do is get in just a few hours before with the false flag, and they will use robotic greys, which they have in some underground facilities. They will use the first generation of triangle craft, and they will have mock-up scenes of combat between American soldiers and these aliens. The difficulty for them is that Putin in Russia is not going to play that game. The original plan was that the major countries of the world would all agree to that. But there are major countries now that are not going to play the game. So it's going to basically be America and Britain following suit, and perhaps Australia and Canada. So it's not going to be the easy program that these psychopaths had actually planned for. And the other thing I will say is that we haven't talked about a potential economic blip occurring. That also is programmed to come in as well. And so many people don't seem to see the truth. They don't seem to be able to respond. But you know, when all the cash machines turn themselves off, when the banks close their doors, when there are disruptions to communications, people, I hope, will not just look around and say what's going on. I hope they'll say, what sort of life have I got? What sort of person am I? Is this the right way to elect my leaders? Are my values right? Now, I'm hoping that everything will change, that people will begin to question their whole way of living, the whole way that the system works. They will feel that, how could I have been so stupid? How could I have believed all these lies? Their whole world will have totally gone, and they're very vulnerable. That is an incredibly dangerous position for us, because if we have a vacuum, some other entity or some evil person might attempt to try and get in there and to form an alternative government. This world, this third dimensional planet, has been so modelled on the fourth dimension, we don't need to go through it very much. On this planet we have words, Satanism, occult, sacrifice, all of these words, black magic. Now those words don't exist in the fourth dimension, but their energy does, and it was the energy from the fourth dimension that was drawn here that's created that. So we don't need to go to the fourth and stay there, because we've already experienced it. We need to just pass through it very quickly and go into the fifth, where those words and that energy holds no strength, because the vibrational force of the fifth and higher is such that there is no place for those resonation of energies that cannot survive there. So actually, I'm very positive for the future. I actually think we're going to make it. I think it's going to be a bumpy ride, but I'm very positive. So that's my 2 penneth worth.
Pol sich verändert, dann heißt es ja nicht, dass die Kontinente sich oder die Wasser der Erde sich über uns ergießen sozusagen, also die geokataklystischen Maßnahmen da eintreten würden. Was viel wichtiger ist. Und darauf setzt sich mein Schwerpunkt, dass wir erkennen, dass die Abnahme des Erdmagnetfeldes, die ja immer damit einhergeht, sozusagen, wenn die Pole wandern, dann gibt es irgendwann mal den Moment, wo es ein Nullfeld gibt, bevor es dann umflippt oder springt. Und diese sehr schwachen Felder, die sind auch nicht überall gleich. Das heißt, es ist nicht homogen auf der Erde überall gleich schwach. Das kann man sich täglich anschauen. Da kann man sich die NASA-Bilder anschauen, die ESA-Bilder. Aber die Abnahme des Erdmagnetfeldes hat die große Bedeutung, dass die Stimmungslagen, wie ich früher gesagt habe, nicht nur verändert. Heute ist man so weit, dass man feststellt, Studien, die es ergeben haben, über 1,5 Jahrzehnte in Novosibirsk durchgeführt wurden, dass die telepathischen Eigenschaften zunehmen, dass intuitive Eigenschaften zunehmen, dass die kognitiven Eigenschaften zunehmen. Also alles Eigenschaften, die wir ja für erstrebenswert halten. Und der Verstand sozusagen in die zweite Reihe gesetzt wird. Denn der Verstand kann diese Dinge oft gar nicht mehr ausdeuten, was dort über die Ideen, also aus dem Altgriechischen die Idea, also was als Inspiration dort reinkommt. Und genau das, der Verstand setzt sich oft ja störend davor und sagt, ist alles Quatsch. So, ist der Zensor. Und wenn man das nicht tut, dazu werden wir ja hineingehoben sozusagen durch das abgeschwächte Erdmagnetfeld zunehmend mehr, dass wir den Kanal der Inspiration automatisch geöffnet bekommen, ob wir es nun wollen oder nicht. Es ist noch nicht mal gesagt, ob es für jeden gut ist, denn es ist natürlich damit auch gesagt, dass dort Informationen reinkommen, die man vielleicht gar nicht hören möchte, weil es gar nicht mehr in sein Weltbild passt. Wo das Ego so stark ausgeprägt ist, dass es das andere, das Neue gar nicht möchte, dass es lieber festhalten möchte an alte Strukturen. Die Sonne spielt insofern eine ganz herausragende Rolle. Ich bezeichne sie sozusagen als den somatischen oder körperlichen Aspekt unseres höheren Selbstes. Sie ist sozusagen ein erweiterter Körperteil, der eben nicht in unserem Körper ist, ja, also meinetwegen in unserem Gehirn, sondern außerhalb. Auf der quantenphysikalischen Ebene ist die Sonne auch nicht entfernt von uns, sind wir sowieso miteinander verschränkt. Ja. Insofern ist die Sonne, das sehen wir ja an den Messergebnissen immer wieder, unmittelbar mit unserem Erdkern zum Beispiel auch zusammen verbunden und mit uns, mit unseren Herzen, mit unseren elektromagnetischen Feldern, die wir selber auch generieren, sind wir unmittelbar verbunden. Das heißt, sie ist ein Teil von uns selber und führt uns in andere Bewusstseinszustände. Vor allen Dingen sollten wir unsere Denkstrukturen hinterfragen. Diese alten Muster, die einfach da sind, sagt sich auch so leicht dahin, aber sie sind einfach da. Die ganzen Konditionierungen durch die Abnahme der Erdmagnetfelder zum Beispiel können dann auch andere Strahlen von der Sonne, zum Beispiel elektromagnetischen, zumindest kurzzeitig stärker auf uns einwirken, genau. Werden wir ja automatisch in bewusstseinserweiterten Situationen geführt, sodass wir über den Tellerrand schauen können und durchschauen können, inwiefern wir diese Matrixstrukturen, die Ego-Programme überhaupt gelebt haben. Für uns ist das so normal und so verständlich gewesen. Und dass es da aber noch etwas anderes gibt, einen Wesenskern von uns, der es ja der uns im Eigentlichen ausmacht, haben wir vergessen. Aber das Ego hat sich so wie ein Imperator aufgestellt und so verhält es sich auch und lässt nichts anderes zu. Ist sogar in der Lage, Sabotageprogramme, die Psychologen kennen den inneren Saboteur, der ergibt sich daraus, aus so ein Phänomen, aufzustellen und sagen, also wenn meine Vormachtstellung in Gefahr ist, dann lasse ich mir was einfallen. Das wird dann nicht mehr möglich sein, weil wir erkennen, wie bei einer Nahtoderfahrung, da passiert etwas, ich sehe etwas, nehme etwas wahr, das einfach mal in eine Schieflage geraten ist. Wenn wir allein nur zulassen, wer wir wirklich sind, und dass wir mit dieser Haltung im Grunde genommen alles zustande bringen. Und wir, jeder Einzelne für sich, das Zünglein an der Waage sind, was auch wichtig ist. Wir selber, jeder Einzelne ist das Zünglein an der Waage. Das heißt, dieser Schmetterlingseffekt, der ja bekannt ist, dass ein kleiner Schmetterlingsflügelschlag ausreicht, um irgendwo einen Tornado, einen Hurrikan hervorzurufen. Das sind wir ganz genauso. Ja, das ist letztlich ein Fakt. Und wenn wir diesen Aspekt tatsächlich nicht nur theoretisieren, sondern wirklich auch umsetzen, unsere Haltung sich ändert, ist es das Beste, was wir machen können.